movie!
In today's video, we will go over the Playdate handheld and discuss how this is yet another example of a unique niche gaming system should be developed and marketed in today's world. The Playdate and the Intellivision Amico both have very different hardware specs and games compared with each other. They do, however, have similarities in both are trying to offer a completely different option from the big three video game giants. They're trying to target both hardcore video game fans and also trying to grab some of the interest from the hyper-casual gamers looking at buying something unique with very short learning curves. I will compare the recent Playdate video, which was broadcasted on YouTube last week, with the train wreck of the E3 showcase from Intellivision of just the other day.
Now, multiplayer gaming meant a kid in a dark room with their headphones on. Right?
Here we have Tommy Tallarico in a dark room, kicking off the Amico E3 showcase. He only has 10 minutes to present and decides to waste the first minute talking about how thankful he is that E3 took his money so they can have this presentation. And he spends the rest of the time talking about his accolades. Meanwhile, the Playdate has a very bright, artistic, eye-catching animation which gradually shows the different parts of the handheld console. Somehow, Tommy thinks that showing his 1998 GeoCities webpage is supposed to impress people. You think that a rich guy like him could afford to pay for someone to do a site for him. It looks terrible. Both companies introduced the product in different ways. The Amico decides to show computer renderings and a Photoshop picture of the console, despite the system being in development for many years and supposedly launching in only 4 months. Eventually it cuts back to Tommy and the room is so dark you can barely see the console behind him. One of the features of the console is the LED lights, so you think that they would have those units behind him illuminated to grab everyone's attention. The Playdate has Krista in a well-lit room with a vibrant background physically holding the handheld in her hand and telling the customer exactly what the product is. They eventually show a close-up of the unit and her using the crank, so you can see that it actually exists. Tommy once again shows the demo modes of the controllers like he does in all his YouTube interviews. He never ever has a problem showcasing the demo modes with a clear shot of his hand showing exactly how everything is supposed to work. Yet, as they did in this E3 showcase, during the actual real gameplay, they rarely show a clear shot of someone doing the motion controls or using all the different functionalities of the remote. I noticed that they use a lot of questionable shots of people using the controller. They either have the camera facing the people, which means you have no idea if they're actually playing on the TV, or they show the controller up close and only a tiny portion of the TV, so you have no idea if it actually is the person playing on the screen or what is actually going on the screen. When comparing the functionality of the controllers, the Playdate shows the Obra Dinn guy showing his mock-up game. It's a clean shot of the real handheld showing him use the controls. I am convinced that this is real footage of him playing, and from what I can see, it appears to have no lag and responds exactly how it should. So next off, comparing both of them, both companies discuss how they will deliver the games. The Playdate was very clear on how you will get a season pass and how each week that a new game will automatically upload to your unit via Wi-Fi. It is very clear and concise on how much you'll get, what games you'll get, and the only mystery that they left is in what order you will get these games. The Amico, on the other hand, announced the pricing structure for the United States with $20 for physical release and $10 for digital, but as you can read the small print, it did not confirm the prices for the rest of the world, so who knows what the prices will be for in Canada or anywhere else. They announced that physical games will exist, but for some bizarre reason they won't release more information on it until later this year. This is a reminder that the console is supposed to be out in 4 months only, so why are these physical releases such a mystery? Where can I get them? How do they work? Can I still bring my controller over and play these physical releases at different houses, or will I need my physical copy with me at all times, or how is this? I don't understand why this is left a mystery. It comes off as if they don't really know how it will work at this point. And I also noticed that Tommy at no point mentioned which games are available at launch, what can you buy when it first comes out, and he didn't even clarify what games came with the pack-in titles. Both companies did run sizzle reels of the games that they have in development. The Playdate showed what the title of the game is, along with a little gameplay snippet, and who is developing the game also. They even had 2 interviews with developers who helped sell the concept of why this little gadget is a unique system for them to develop on and for why you should buy their games. They showed some of the games being played with real actual footage of people holding the handheld, and turning the crank, showing how this new crank feature works. Tommy was all over the place throughout this video. I can't understand why they didn't add on little like titles on the screen of like when they were showing the games to love the actual game title. It was weird because they had on-screen graphics for certain games like Night Stalker, though it showed copyright 2020, and some of the other stuff like Major League Baseball and soccer. Also, why are they showing a build of baseball from 2020? He proudly announced the MLB license a few times in the video, yet he can't be bothered to capture a more recent build of the game from like this year. They even showed what I'm guessing is a version of Breakout for a different system, because if you look on the screen it says press start to continue, and I don't believe the Amico controller has a start button. He also bounced back and forth and showed the same several games several times throughout the video, making it very confusing to follow. It would have been far more clear if they just had a segment dedicated to the game and showing gameplay, and then showed the titles of each of those games. It was just all over the place. One thing I found funny is even on the official subreddit of Amico, they even had fans asking, was anything new shown on this presentation? And there was new games, like the Flying Tigers and the Dolphin Quest. This is a clear indication that they did a poor job of presenting the product if people can't remember what was shown to them. Finally, the most important part of selling a product is telling the consumer what the price of the product is, and what is included with it, and where they can buy it, and finally, when they can buy it. The Amico didn't show any of that stuff. It just said go to Intellivision.com for details. You'd think they would at least have what comes with the product and where you can get it retail. The Playdate was completely clear on what the price is and when people can expect it. They even talked about how COVID has impacted them and how they'll do their best job of supplying the orders as they come in. What was really sad was the Playdate. They had a bit more to their presentation, which I won't go through, but at the end gave all the details and showed a beautiful 3-minute commercial, which I'll play at the end of this video, which was clearly done by professionals just to get people excited on the product. And it really comes off well and looks professional. Tommy, on the other hand, closed off his show by showing him hanging around with his old friends and announcing a contest for a signed photo giveaway. He didn't even mention anything about the status of Earthworm Jim, and just had a contest where you can email, which is super, like, who does the email contest anymore? And you can win one of 3 prints. Like, that's how you close off your big show. That's usually you close it off with the home run hitting, like the big news. The fact that he didn't show any Earthworm Jim footage at all clearly indicates that that game's not in production and nowhere to be found. My final thoughts. Comparing both presentations, the Playdate completely blew the Amico away, and it wasn't even remotely close. The Playdate presentation was bright, whimsical, clear, entertaining, and did a great job of being sincere and selling the product. It felt fresh and exciting when you watched it. On the presentation, they had 3 different members of the team doing presentations. They interviewed 2 developers, and it was a well-planned presentation that had a good structure and easy to follow. The online reception since it was put on YouTube has been extremely positive, with far more positive impressions, and even IGN North America wrote and published an article on it, despite the site having a ton of other pre-E3 news being published at the same time. The Amico was, in my opinion, a very poor showing. Just couldn't have gone any worse. Even if I were to take away my biased opinion, the presentation itself looked extremely dark and unappealing. It looked seedy. Tommy had 0 reasons. There's no reason for him to start off the presentation with 1 minute talking about himself. It had nothing. It added nothing to sell the product. It would have seemed more professional if the Amico had, developers talking about what made the system unique and how they like working for this new project, and maybe if they had other members of the team talking about the hardware instead of just everything with Tommy talking. When you see Tommy all by himself doing all the talking, it feels either that he has a huge ego and just wants to be the focus on him, or maybe they just don't have a team of staff and he's just a one-man running the whole operation and they have no one else. It's also very confusing in how much they showed of the phones being the controller, and the complete lack of live demonstrations of the Amico controller being used. It's just the continuity of the show was just also a complete mess. He kept bouncing back and forth, and it is hard to follow. It seemed like this wasn't a presentation that was put together by someone who was an expert at creating presentations. It was just very amateurish. If I didn't know anything about the Amico, I would have thought that the system was in its infancy, since they kept showing renderings and stock photos, and it just seemed like it didn't look like a product that's been in development for 3 years and ready to launch. Now, my final thoughts on the Playdate handheld itself is that it beats out the Amico in every aspect in trying to be, a unique, different, niche video game product. It legitimately has an innovative new control scheme with the crank. You can't find any other system that has a little crank on the side of it. Meanwhile, the Amico, everything you see on that can be done elsewhere. It legitimately is simple to use because it only has a directional pad, the 2 buttons, and the crank. So it won't take very long to learn how to play the games and control them. Now, when the Playdate makes the claim of having exclusive games, those are actual exclusive games. There's 24 of them, and there's absolutely no way you can play them anywhere else at this point in time, unlike the Amico with more than half the games being ports. Even if you watch the full presentation, the Panic company, like the people who work for them, don't take it too seriously, and they know it's a niche novelty and almost like an art-like project or product. So they don't come off as, having a huge ego and thinking that they're going to destroy Nintendo or anyone else. They have realistic expectations. Playdate has actually passed certification, so I have very high hopes that, or not even hopes, I believe that it'll be in production and being releasing as they said. The Playdate also had an add-on clock, Bluetooth speaker, which was funny, but it actually has some usefulness. Unlike the Amico, where they're pumping out stickers for your controllers and stick-on buttons for the touchscreens, just absolute garbage. Hey, even with at least with the Playdate, the worst case scenario, you get a free pen, or you get a pen with the clock. On the Playdate presentation, they even showed how you can create your own games. It's a huge feature, and hopefully they didn't make it clear, but hopefully you can share the games, because that'd be really good. The Playdate also has real developers making games, so it's not just mysterious people from Germany or wherever that the Amico are getting. They published everything of who's making what games, so they'll come out. And the company behind everything is the same company that published the Entitled Goose Game and Firewatch, so that shows that they at least have an eye on high quality indie games, because both those games I found to be fantastic. And that's why I just think the Playdate has done such a better job marketing and educating potential customers on what their product is and why they should buy it. It's just every single aspect of what they've done has been far superior than the Amico. It just feels like one is a well-oiled machine, while the Amico is just really amateur hour and stuck 20 years in the past. And if you just go online, just see any of the reception of both, just looking at both products, you'll see that the Playdate has absolutely destroyed the Amico. So that's all I have for today. Yet another a versus video where the Amico gets destroyed. So hopefully next time, hopefully there is no more next time videos, but if there's another one, we'll see if they can actually beat out any potential future retro console or gaming handhelds. So make sure you leave your angry hate comments on the YouTube video, subscribe, complain about my non-robotic voice, and I'll be making more videos in the future. See ya.
Parents and young kids, they're hiding in a corner, head buried in their phones.